Hello everyone, welcome to the last session of Entrepreneurship Academy 2020. Tonight we are honored to have Jason Chiu, CEO and founders of Cherrypicks with us tonight. So Jason is a good old friend of iDendron. He supported our work since the Dreamcatchers Forum in 2015. Jason is also the chairman of Versitech, the commercialization arms of Hong Kong U. He also served as judges of many Hong Kong U innovation and entrepreneurship competitions. In this session, Jason will share his journey of founding Cherrypicks, a leader in mobile technologies and e-commerce in Hong Kong, which was also featured as a Harvard Business School case study. So without further ado, let me pass the time to Jason.
Thank you, Doris. Hi, everyone. Let me get the screen share going and then we can get started. Okay, I trust you see the screen. And again, thank you for those kind words. It's a pleasure and honor to be sharing at the last session of the Entrepreneurship Academy. I'm no stranger to Hong Kong U, and I love to be among the entrepreneurs and the future startups and unicorns in doing my sharing. And since 2015, I've been engaged in so many roles I couldn't remember. Hopefully this would be just one of many exciting experiences. What I'm going to share is honest opinion, lessons from failures, and some notes that I have in helping other founders and startups. So it's right from the heart. I hope you enjoy it. Before I dive in, however, to give you context, I want to tell you a little bit more about myself. I'm actually a trained electrical and computer engineer from the University of Waterloo, Canada. And I worked as a telecom strategy consultant at Deloitte Consulting for 6 years, which is now called Deloitte Digital. And before I had the opportunity to become the youngest partners at Deloitte in year 2000, when I was 28, I set aside that opportunity and started my own startup company. I founded Cherrypicks. I founded Cherrypicks on the back of the thought that I want to have a great company built on the 3G mobile data opportunity. I want to build personalized mobile apps that would serve our daily lives. I was thinking about giving it 2 years time to try, and that 2 years actually turned into 20 years, and it's still going on as my career. From cradle to grave, from setup to exit, I am actually an early product of the startup ecosystem. I was very fortunate because I had a great team, although there were a lot of changes over time, but essentially I couldn't ask for more. I have great clients, I have great investors, and I've survived the dot-com bubble burst since right at the beginning in year 2000, and also subsequent financial crisis, 9/11, SARS, and the current pandemic. Perhaps it's a little bit too early to say that I survived the current pandemic, but I'm here, so talking to you so far, it's okay. My entrepreneurial journey has taken me to places, to people, to experience beyond my wildest imagination. I enjoy every bit of the ups and downs, the highs and lows of the journey. Now, if I were to just highlight a few so that you have the context, I would say that I really appreciate the highs of raising $25 million in 2007 from reputable VCs such as SoftBank, Tokyo Marine from Japan, Korea Technology Fund from Korea, and Far EasTone from Taiwan, SK Telecom from Korea as well. Literally, investors from China, Korea, and Japan on a valuation of over $100 million. At that time, it was a big deal when Hong Kong doesn't spell startup. And I enjoy the highs of growing the company from zero to almost 900 people in 5 offices, headquartered in Hong Kong, second largest office in Beijing. And the highs of rebuilding the company from the low point all the way organically to M&A's exit in 2014. But all these are not that important compared to the humbling experience. I have been extremely humbled by the low points, the lows of failing to raise funds to sustain cash flow to the brink of almost bankruptcy in 2009, and the lows of scaling down the business from 900 people firing, selling businesses, and trying to survive from 900 people down to below 20. But yet I didn't give up. The low point of that result in the fact that I'm forced to engineer a management buyout of my investors. There are other low points, such as missing the opportunity to scale star products more than once, and the low point of letting go my co-founders and some key talents along the journey. So it is anything but dull experience. Everything is so eventful and so exciting in entrepreneurship. So that said, you may not know Cherrypicks, but you probably have used our product. If you're a user of PayMe, if you bet on any of those jockey club services, if you ride the MTR, if you go to hospital authority, and recently if you use Leave Home Safe, you're using our product and technology. We're a Harvard Business School study, and we will be preparing the second case in the near future as well. And Harvard Business School's case study, if you're interested, shoot me an email, I'll send it to you. You don't need to pay Harvard. I have a few key roles in the society, which I'm very proud of. And these are almost everything to do with young people, startups, innovation, and technology. I'm very proud to be part of Hong Kong U community. I will do my best to serve as chairman to see how we can translate more innovation into startups and successes in the society to make an impact. And at the same time, I'll continue to work and support startup in the ecosystem using my own serial entrepreneurship as a base of experience. At the moment, I'm an angel investor and mentor of a number of startups. Some are from Hong Kong, some are from China, Korea, and Silicon Valley. And obviously, we have a couple of startups from Hong Kong U as well. And I look forward to supporting more. Now, when I started my journey, one of the early questions I got asked by my mentor is, Jason, what do you think startup is all about? I don't think there is a standard answer, but over the years, I figured that startup is really about leading a team of talents unleashed to their full potential to pursue innovative ideas for an opportunity with meaningful funding. Now, it seems to be a mouthful, but basically it is about talents, ideas, and funding. Now, with that in mind, I want to share experiences pertaining to these three areas with the time I have in this session so that you get the first hand of what an early product of the ecosystem may have to say about talents, ideas, and funding. I think we have to go back to right at the beginning. When we set up Cherrypicks, that was a garage-sized office in Shangwan in year 2000. When we set up Cherrypicks, I start with talent in mind. And I built a team of 5 co-founders. And they comprise 1 serial entrepreneur, that's not me, 2 strategy consultants, including me, 1 telecom product expert, and 1 computer scientist. 5 of us, all trained engineers or computer science background from North America and Australia. The first few new hires are all masters and bachelor's tech guys, 1 admin and a commerce graduate. That's the founding team. Out of the 5 founding team, only 2 remained after 20 years. The 3 who left, 1 went back to their family business, 1 went to Canada for family reason, 1 left to start yet another entrepreneurship journey. That was the serial entrepreneur. A lot of these early founding team members add to the equation. I know them very well and we spend a lot of time together. It makes me understand that doing entrepreneurship or starting a business is very much teamwork. And because we contribute in different ways, we try to design the best we could. We all know that flying solo is very difficult. We don't mind decision making taking a bit longer because we know that together we go further and we can see more. As time passes by, I brought in more senior members based on additional opportunities, experience, and what we need in different stages of the company as we grow. It's quite normal as it seems, but I also learned that bringing in members whom you know and have a chemistry before is more important than bringing on members just based on skills alone, especially senior ones. So I've done something which is quite exceptional in Hong Kong. I think we are probably the only startup that has a management team comprising of 5 high school schoolmates or classmates from the same class back in the school days in Hong Kong. So right now, these 5 from the same class still work together in the current management team of Cherrypicks. Direct reports is important. And as a founder, what you do over time is you first of all prove yourself as a leader. And your immediate next job as a good founder is to build a team of people. Then the people build the business. You as founder is to find, inspire, and level up the right people. Now, the first challenge I want to flow out, and perhaps along with some of my observations and lessons, is that what if a co-founder doesn't perform? Obviously, I'm not talking about these 5 because they are still with me. But if a co-founder doesn't perform at early stage, it's probably easier to handle. But as the company grows, they seem to be out of place. What do? It's very difficult to call out a co-founder or a founding team member for bad performance and behavior. Co-founders and founding team members have strong emotional attachment to the company because you built the company together. You went through difficult times together. I found that the easiest way is to be honest. And yet, if the situation allows, please try to engage outside advisor or get the board's input or get a third-party friend to get in the discussion. In all circumstances, try to preserve your friendship, be fair, but do not be afraid to confront. I think finding a solution might involve changing role, but ultimately, the only sustainable way to have a good relationship and to grow the company at the same time is when everyone is in the right role and can work out and shine in their positions. That's the only way that can sustain. It is painful and difficult. I've done it before and I don't want to do it again, but this would be something perhaps inevitable for every startup, especially when you are the founder. I've seen and coached a few startups in the early days that they have a breakup with co-founders, and we have had a lot of discussions around this. It is very common. I talk about direct reports. In Cherrypicks, we have 3 general managers and a CFO. So I have 1 to 4. Hopefully that's a healthy, good ratio that I can spend enough time and focus with them. And I have also direct reports on the next level of 11. These are senior VPs and VPs. Now I'm telling you all this because it's important. When you have less than 5 people to start with, everything seems to be lightning fast and easy and efficient. As you grow, you need to be careful how you structure and organize. More about organization a little bit later. Coming back to talents. How do we manage talent? Well, I don't know. We just learn over time. First of all, we want to think that everyone who have the privilege to work at Cherrypicks is special. So we call ourselves Cherryans, as in we're different. We're different from others that are not working in the company. And we also have a lot of our own thinking. We built our own academy called Cherrypicks Unlearned. Although in parts it could be primitive, but it is very specific on what we want to learn, how we want to share. And sometimes it is so autonomous that these repository will just simply grow as team feels that they need to acquire certain knowledge. So this is important. And I'll tell you about our parent company, which has a culture of learning a bit later. Another very important aspect of Cherrypicks, or the culture that we try to build, is teamwork. And I don't think anyone would disagree with the importance of teamwork. But how do you get there is another entirely another issue. Sports is very interesting. It's difficult to get sports going with basketball, badminton, and so on, but at the end of the day, Dragon Boat seems to be the best. Now in startups, it's not common to have Dragon Boat team because it does require quite a lot of members. It is not easy, but to have a special paddle, your jersey, and your team spirit, Dragon Boat really brings the best out of people and makes them very well. In fact, a Dragon Boat is the company because the helm is the vision and leadership. The overall organization structure, the formation determines whether you win or not, who you put in the front and at the back. The drummer is the reward and the recognition scheme. The left-right paddlers is your company's standard and how you develop talent. We want to make sure that we have innovation, and there are a lot of structural related incentive to do that. But we were one of the first in the industry to have internal pitch days. Back in 2016, we have a pitch day with 3 rewards, 4 slides, 5 minutes, and we have 11 teams. We also have, for cultural reason, we also have an autonomous social activity team, which all the CEO, CFO, and GMs could not question, and that's called Cherrypicks. And these are the members. They organize with their own budget activities and events for the entire company, including annual parties. Don't worry, they are all normal. They were just acting funny. There are a lot of funds and events. We create movies and games, and these are all people from the company. It is amazing to look at how creative people could be. And if they can bring this out, they can bring into the company's work. We also try something more difficult, as in the culture of the company itself, that we only do difficult and big projects. If it is small and easy, someone else can do it. We'll only take on difficult tasks. And this one is a mannequin challenge for 300 people, all shot in one go. Obviously, town halls and annual parties are good celebration. We also celebrate every time when an app that we create reach the top download of a jurisdiction like Hong Kong on iOS or iOS. We're very fortunate. We have had a few celebrations in the past. Individuals' behavior or individuals' action is a behavior. Collective behavior of individuals is the culture. So if you talk about culture, we were very conscious about building one that we like, that can sustain the company through bad times, the resilience and everything since day one. So this is back into year 2000. We actually went so far that we want every new members coming into the company to go through a ritual of face painting. Now, obviously that didn't go down too well because people start not accepting our offer, knowing that this is a ritual that they have to go through. So very quickly we abandoned that. But later on, years afterwards, I read about Google and the Burning Man. And the Burning Man multiverse and Google is not too different from what we are trying to do. It's almost cult-like, but it's exactly in this cult-like concept that you build a very strong bonding. Another attempt at the culture and the value of the company is when we explicitly talk about it in the town hall back in 2006, in the mission, vision, and values of Cherrypicks. It was actually a company-wide event which involved a lot of colleagues from Taiwan, actually. So you see a lot of Chinese in there as well. So these are the stuff we value at Cherrypicks at the time. But slowly after a few years, I start to realize it is not what you say and it is not what you pin up. It is not the posters in your hallway, your reminder card in people's wallet. It's none of those. It's actually what people collectively think and do, what you as a leader and your fellow leadership in the management exemplify, who you hire, how you behave, how people are being treated. What is the ultimate purpose of your company? When there are trade-offs and difficult decisions, How do you decide what is important? Right? So it is those things that determine the true culture. So the flip side is, if you ask me what your company's culture is today, or if I were to go into a startup or a company and find out what the culture of that company is, you don't actually ask for their mission and values and vision statement. You actually would see and review the true culture when you look into how the company deal with departures of staff, how the company deal with crisis and problems. Then you see the culture. There are a lot of hard things and lessons in managing talent. I do not want to talk about recruitment, although there are a lot of intelligence and wisdom behind that, but a lot of people cover that. So if you think hiring and recruitment is hard, wait until you have to fire and let go good people, your co-founders, good teammates, long-serving ones, or perhaps they left you instead of you firing them. When you have to see your first hire leave the company, which I obviously did, the second hire of the company is still with us and now become a management. The limit test of the true culture, as I said before, is, how do you, as a company, deal with departures? How do you deal with crisis? And if you look up a very good book, which I would recommend, it's called Dear Founders by Maynard. He suggests founders to do a culture check every 6 months. It's not a big deal, but it's good to talk about it with your founding team and your management. I promised an example by NetDragon, the parent company of Cherrypicks. This is their campus. They have licensed the rights to build an enterprise spaceship from CBS, and they did. And they have a campus of largest VR experience center, hotel, and a software university. And they have built a strong culture for learning and dreaming. The founder is my age, and he has classes, share readings, post learning videos. Everyone in the on the campus and around the world, which are about 6,000 colleagues, they call themselves schoolmates, 同学, and they build the university on the campus so that they can actually be closer to learning. They encourage experiment, and they have an internal messaging app called 99U with daily quizzes and learning modules built in. Senior management have overseas study trips regularly. So this is the culture where you can foster learning, and we learn a lot from that as well. In the CEO orientation that I do regularly, when we have new hires, some of them I interview, but not all of them. So we have a CEO orientation meeting for a batch of new hire. And in that, you see a lot of the things that I shared just now, because I want to inspire the new hires early about who we are. But specifically, there were 4 personal lessons at CEO orientation that I always share. The first one is dare to dream and innovate. The flip side is, of course, you don't need to and you must not be afraid to fail. If you're afraid to fail, there is no point in innovating because you'll be too scared to try anything. And if you have not failed during the course of Cherrypicks' career, probably you have not tried hard enough. Finding mentors is good. And by mentors, I don't mean experienced people necessarily. Your teammates, someone younger than you, your subordinates or your supervisor could be your mentor. I could be a mentor as well, but mentor is neutral. So you also have to offer something. And the last one perhaps is most counterintuitive. I actually encourage them not to strive to be the best. Obviously, we know that better is better than best, but not only that, striving to be the best in this current high-speed technology era is perhaps not as relevant as being unique. So if you want to create a blue ocean, do that and be unique. Don't chase and run the same race as other and trying to be number one. So that's the lessons that I always share. Ultimately, in talent management, I think we have to choose to manage or not to manage. What I mean by that is, I find almost always easier to follow guiding principles in making all the decisions and communicating to colleagues through town hall or emails to everyone, that the guiding principles is understood, then we don't need much policies, right? So principles better than policies. And if you align the interests of team members and teams, you don't need to confine them and restrict them by rules. People need alignments, not rules. And people don't want to be managed. People want to be inspired, right? So these are the ways to work with young people and the ways to work within Cherrypicks with Cherryans. And I think a lot of us might have heard about describing your own company or an executive talking about their own company as family. I actually disagree with that because family members are different and you don't necessarily demand performance from family members, but in companies you do. In fact, performance is very important. So a better description is team sport. I think it's a very powerful, very good analogy because in team sport, you care for each other, you cover each other, and you win the glory together. And it's performance demanding. But I think the best analogy, if you were to ask me, is not team sport because it's a zero-sum game. You win, somebody lose. And the rules are set in sports. In the real world, there's no rules. Anything could happen. And you may not win over somebody. As long as you survive, you do not lose, maybe you win. So I think a SEAL team is much better. Now, speaking of that, SEAL team is one of the biggest organization structure that we changed to in 2015. It is perhaps very odd to be talking about this, but it's actually what we did. So we have a company of about 300 individuals, and they are professionals, young people. They are located in different parts of the world. We're very good, we know that. But we start to hit a lot of bottlenecks, in managing people, maybe out of our own capabilities. How do we manage a tech team of 150 people? How do you run design team for, 5 locations, of 30 people? So we're looking at how do we act as fast, as good as when we were small. And then we also look at the departments. The hierarchies are so artificial that in the corporate world, we create those so that we can administer. But innovation doesn't work like this. So we create Navy SEAL team, which means these are the teams that are the best. And if you know what the Navy SEAL is, it was created in Vietnam War in 1962 for special mission, either to capture, to eliminate targets, to gather intelligence, and to complete special operations. So we want to give it a cool name so that it's inspiring to the team members. So we talk about SEAL team. And I remember there was a separate story where one of my staff asked me about in the Army team, which combat unit do you think has the best teamwork? Now, I thought for a while, it was Air Force, because you have to be very good to be Air Force, maybe Navy ship or maybe ground troops. It turns out to be none of those, because the combat units that I talk about actually rely on very good individual skills, and they obey the orders and they coordinate with the entire unit. But the one that actually have to rely on each other in the team to survive is submarine. Because in a submarine, the collective faith is all tied together. One member create a sound unintentionally will give away the entire location of the submarine and lead to the destruction of the entire crew. So that was inspiring to me because, I never thought about it that way. So perhaps we should think about submarine teams instead. Now for SEAL team, it's best-in-class talent with specific industry focus. And as I said before, we want to break the walls created by departments and hierarchies. And most importantly, the 300 individuals now can be grouped into smaller SEAL team size, and our sweet spots based on experience is 50 to 100. So at a 50 to 100 Cherryans team, we were the best. So we will have to recreate that and bring up more people to act as management of that SEAL team. Empowerment creates accountability, sense of ownership, and we give them a lot of autonomy to build stronger core groups. There are 2 SEAL team reminders, as in the Army. Number 1, innovate or die. Number 2, enthusiasm is common, endurance is rare. They train for that. So with SEAL team, we've done quite a lot from 2015 with growth and a lot of great work. The FinTech SEAL team created PayMe, and there were so many examples I can quote, but given the time, I want to talk about where we failed. We failed to do the following, and we could improve a lot. I think SEAL teams are great, but we still have to mentor the junior Charians, and sometimes we just maybe oversee and miss that a lot. Career path and roadmap becomes a bit more complicated if we have SEAL team structure. It's like a game company having game studios. And of course, there's a dark side of the SEAL team structure because it created silos, and the concept of your SEAL team versus my SEAL team, subculture, gatekeeping, and challenges in cross-team collaboration. We do have some solutions on that, but by and large, it is a difficult problem to tackle. CEO becoming less time spending with senior management leaders because there are now more leaders, because there's more structure around SEAL team instead of just one senior management team. So that was on me. And also because the company has been so great in creating solutions that millions of users will use, that culture suffocates the product culture. The solution to that in the last few years is to fire the product people, let them start outside of the company, and we fund them to do that. So last point on talent management, who are your friends? I think management, team members, staff, mentors, angel investors, and advisors could be your friend if you choose to, and if you treat them as such. The board, VCs, partner companies are definitely not your friends. Now, I'm not talking about they are your enemies. I'm just talking about they are not your friends, because the board is a governance body that ensures startups to, or your company to be in the right direction, to serve the best interests and return the best maximum return to the shareholders. Your partners have their own agenda. Your VCs look at money and return. You have to know where their agendas are. So strictly speaking, they're not your friends. Partner companies in other countries will really be eye-opening. With the opportunities we have now in Greater Bay Area and Belton Road, I encourage all the startups and yourself to reach out to overseas countries and partners as soon as possible at the beginning and at the start of your journey, so that you don't miss out on things that could have been trajectory changing for you. I still have Korean friends that are becoming lifelong friends who will drink me under the table anytime. And I have Indonesian partner who ended up detaining me because of some disagreement at the lobby of our client, almost like kidnapping. So there are a lot of eye-opening experience with partnership. So talent management, I think at the end of the day, if you can lead an ordinary group of people or a group of ordinary people to do extraordinary things, your company, your startup will be exceptional already. Next, I want to talk about product, especially product idea. Remember this word, because in the first couple of years, all you do is validation. Whether it's validating your vision, your pain points, your products, your business models, the minimum viable products, addressing certain target market product mix, and also partnership. In every conversation, every pitch, every partnership, every trade show, go for validation and don't think about valuation. Don't think about in the fundraising, you need to be at a certain price so that you don't get diluted. Forget about that. It's validation. Once the validation is there, your valuation will come. Failure is your friend. Fail fast, fail big, fail forward. I've talked about this in many occasions. I still believe in that because in my own experience in developing product or solutions or anything that is related to ideas, you want to fail fast because that would be cheapest. The later you fail, the more costly it would be. You want to fail big because you won't get big enough insights. If it is incremental or decremental, you have to fail big. And you have to fail forward, which is another word for pivot. Learn from it and then do better, right? I want to talk about the biggest myths we have. There were a number of them, but this one is particularly interesting because it actually talks about a technology cycle that I think you as startups and founders would need to avoid as well. We had a very early foresight of augmented reality. So we actually set up a team in 2008, do R&D on AR engine, and we actually work with a French company called Total Immersion. And at the time, they have a webcam-based AR engine. They don't have anything on mobile, so we work with them to co-develop one. In 2009, we actually decided to build our own engine when we launched a lot of projects with clients, especially LVMH. In 2010, 2011, we worked with Dentsu in a joint venture to launch our first location-based AR coupon entertainment app called iButterfly. In 24 months, iButterfly achieved 200 million coupon downloads with paid clients and brands in 10 countries. So this is a profitable app with millions of users and hundreds of millions of paid downloads. And with that, we actually won the World Summit Award and 20 plus awards in the following 2 years. And the growth has been so good that we were blind because the problem with the business model clashed with local ad agencies in various markets. They started to create their own version of iButterfly, something else. And that was in 2015. And then we were hit by two things. 2016, Pokemon Go came up. It worked exactly the same as iButterfly, except the IP is much stronger and people play it as a game and nostalgic to what they have seen in Pokemon IPs, and it took the world by storm. So our usage will just drop to almost zero because Pokemon Go offer advertising agency even better terms for coupons, discounts, and corporate campaigns. And then we were totally done when 2017, Apple and Google offer AR as part of their standard. So we missed this totally. We could have gone big in 2015 and perhaps got bought out by any of these players and perhaps might have gone to IPO or expanded that platform to just beyond just iButterfly. But we didn't. It has never been about technology. It's more about user experience. Your IP policy alignment matters because your staff are not factory. They cannot just crank out innovation. They have to be inspired, incentivized, and agree to innovate. I think the foundation is very simple. We all have that. We all talk about that. You need to have very good members doing lean, agile design thinking. You need to say no more than you say yes, and you need to know your purpose. Okay, last area I promised to talk about, but it will be very brief, is fundraising. If you can't really get a handle of this first two, fundraising would be very painful because you do a lot of fundraising because you want to raise funds. But if you don't get validation, don't have a very good talented team, fundraising would be even more difficult. I think fundraising will definitely be most dramatic in your chapter because it was in mine. Don't believe in the fundraising and in the funding until the money is in the bank. Big name VCs, my experience is that it's good to engage them early. Don't expect to wait until you're most ready and after you see all the other VCs to see the big names at the end. I don't think that's a good strategy. And always go after strategic value more than going after the money. I know Edith talked about investing in VC and fundraising before, so she would be a much better guide. But on the other side of the table, as entrepreneur, I've actually gone through fundraising a few times. Angels, VCs, and banks are very different animals. Angels are 雪中送炭, it's very forgiving, and they understand you need more help, more time, more runway to make it work. Banks, perhaps it's the worst. I hope there is no bankers in this group, because simply put, they would only want to give you money when you don't need it. If you're winning, if you're profitable, if you have a lot of cash, they want to give you more. VCs, they are in between. But do not kid yourself. VCs are in it for money. They are not in it for purpose. I have a lesson on strategic value because we try to crack the China market, and I know I won't be able to go in and live in China and crack it myself. So we tried two ways. Very interesting contrast, I thought. I live in China for some time, but not a permanent station. So in 2004 to 2006, I convinced a VC to support me to acquire a team in Beijing, and we created Youdian, which was rivaling QQ, Xiaonei, and a lot of other popular university-based apps at that moment. Of course, we failed eventually, but that was a very eye-opening experience. Another attempt, instead of acquiring a team in China, we got acquired. So Cherrypicks got acquired by NetDragon. Now we are majority owned by NetDragon, and we are standing at the shoulder of a giant, at least in Fujian province. And we have an opportunity to work with them to go global along Belt and Road and Greater Bay Area as well. So there are different ways to skin a cat, but always look at strategic value. I may not have all the answers, but I have purpose. I hope you do too. That would be my sharing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jason. Always enjoyable to listen your stories because your entrepreneurship journey is long and exciting enough to share a lot of insights. And we have quite a lot of interesting questions. You spend quite a lot of time about like shaping up the company cultures, the management, because you want to recruit the right talents and retain the right people to continue the development of your company. And we see that you have a pretty masculinity team from the DBS old boys. And a question from Sylvia asking that like, how to implement SEAL team soldier concept in a lady-focused team? Do you have any experience coming across?
Yeah, I made a mistake in the US. I'll probably be sued. The mistake was very simple. SEAL team is a concept. Obviously, in the true Navy SEAL, there is no female, right? Yep. But obviously, for us, at some teams, we actually have more female than male. So SEAL team is just a concept so that we get understanding from the teammates. Okay, it's like game company, this is a studio. So SEAL team is self-contained, they're on a mission. They have all the different roles in a functional special purpose unit. So you find actually the army in a SEAL. And each SEAL is trained in multiple purposes, right? And amphibious, basically. So we want to inspire that concept rather than saying that, oh, well, it's all male and, it's army and all that. They don't follow orders, right? They are not really armies. So perhaps the answer to your question is, no, it's not gender. It's gender
neutral. Yeah, it's gender neutral. The concept itself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just make sure every member is expert in that in his own role and areas. Like we get in questions. Well, so many questions. You mentioned at the beginning that your original plan is just for 2 years to try out the startup journey. So but you end up like having 10 or 20 years in this arena. So when do you know, or how do you decide whether to give up or continue?
It's very difficult if you have the personality of you want to start something, and once you start it, you see traction, and then if you're entrepreneurial, you probably see a cup half full rather than half empty. And basically those signs would make you feel that you need to finish this, you need to see through it, you need to not let the team down, you need to make sure this actually fly, you need to prove yourself, you need to validate your vision. So it is with those all together. And obviously we also had been fortunate to raise some funding in spite of the bubble burst and the early days financial crisis, to basically supported us to continue. The real first crisis that we had, other than, at the right beginning, at the start, one of the VCs that supported us is no longer here today because they went bankrupt on the week of bubble burst in the dot-com era. So we had that bomb, but subsequently the first major challenge was actually SARS, when we were grounded and we couldn't fly and we couldn't actually sell and deploy products and so on. I personally had 9 months without salary experience. Some of my teammates were at partial salary and so on. So at that point, we did consider whether it was time to throw in the towel. But at the end, the collective decision is no. It was because of SARS. It was because of the external environment. It was not because of our belief or our product or our vision that has something fundamentally flawed. So we endure it. We basically tough it out. And sure enough, in 2004, we were able to raise our first 25 million.
Yeah. Somehow it's like 時勢做英雄，英雄做時勢. So you go with the flow. And with two questions from Alex and also from team, talking about the people management, team management. Like the first one about like how to establish values with your co-founders at an early stage startup. So I think to avoid like break up afterwards, how to establish that kind of trust and mutual shared values.
Okay, well, I think it's okay. First of all, if you know that co-founders well, meaning that this co-founder is not matched at a co-working space, it is somebody that you know. In my case, maybe it's from work or from high school, then it's a lot easier to align values. And remember, values is more than just talk, right? Because in your discussion, you can say, yeah, I endorse this value, I'll do this, but it doesn't mean that you walk the talk. So how you actually handle situations through time is your true culture, right? So I think you'll need to know that person somehow. If you can, know him quickly, that would be good. If you know him from the past, that would be fantastic. And two other things you should pay attention, perhaps. The first one is how do you divide the shares? That I've seen it time and again that because at the beginning everyone is so courteous and so sensitive about not giving each other bad feelings and being fair, they would have equal share division. And it's difficult to undo later. I'm not saying that it should be not equal, but I'm saying that there is much higher chance to work as an equal share because each one will play a different role and contribution than an equal share team where everybody contribute in the same way and decisions are made in a deadlock way when you have equal shares among founders would be disastrous later on. So shares is one point that you need to be very careful about. Second, I think you need to talk about and make some hypothetical problems and get agreements up front. For example, what if the company is running out of cash in 3 months? What would you do? And what should we do? How should we prioritize and make it consider more important in our decisions? Should we pay our staff and not pay ourselves? Should we, go for government funding? What are the scenarios that you want to play out? I think that would be the second thing that you want to discuss as much as possible with your co-founders. Less people is better. I've done with starting with 5. That was not easy, but it could be done. Yeah, and also I think when there are clues about things getting wrong, be honest and identify them early. Again, avoiding the issue doesn't solve the problem.
Yeah, yeah. Practical lessons. I also see some of the Hong Kong teams like get screwed up by the shareholders agreement because they don't want to too hard, too polite, too courteous.
I think it's in our culture. Nothing wrong with that, but if you want to avoid problems down the road, you need to break that.
Exactly, you have to avoid that bomb and later on. And as just a quick one, like how do you inspire your team members? Can you give some examples? I think you did give some in your presentation, those internal pitching inside your company. Yeah, how to inspire your team members?
Well, I think it's exactly on how you behave and how you lead that inspire people, right? People would see how you treat departures, how you treat difficult decisions, and how you carry yourself maybe outside of the company in your other capacity in the society. I think people need to see that you have a certain degree upholding the principles that you preach. Otherwise, the whole thing is nothing more than just a piece of paper or a poster and so on. So getting inspired doesn't mean that it's a quotable. It's like as in the movie. But I think getting inspired is someone who will earn his position rather than because he is the CEO, I have to listen to him.
Yeah.
I think in our generation, I quite like the commencement speech by Mark Zuckerberg actually, because he said in our generation, meaning in his generation, younger than me for quite some ages, some years, he said purpose is not difficult, right? We talk about purpose, but for Mark Zuckerberg and his generation, he said purpose may not be difficult to find, but purpose is not enough. Right? So you have to make sure that everyone else around you are fired up with purpose as well. So having purpose yourself is not enough. So I think this might be the kind of inspiration that you need as a founder, as a leader, because you need to be contagious. You need to influence the other to be, to be motivated with the purpose, and that's called inspiration.
Yes, I agree with you, Jason. It's like teacher to students, we also don't like to be managed, but like to be inspired. Someone that could always give us inspiring ideas, and then to cultivate some kind of culture that everyone loves. So Taki asks, thanks, Jason. From your experience, which area is more startup friendly? Is it Hong Kong or China?
Oh, startup friendly.
Yep.
It's a difficult question to ask. I think the straightforward, plain vanilla answer would be China, just because there are a lot of opportunities and a lot of pro-startup platforms and funding and innovation, and the society itself understand more what startup is all about than the society in Hong Kong in general. But having said that, I think what the current administration have done in the past few years have encouraged a lot of startup mindset. I would still say that Hong Kong has a lot to offer, and there are global talents coming and staying and at the university level working on startups. I would very much like to see that there is no concept about whether China is better or Hong Kong is better or where should I start. I think we should just start by looking at the entire picture. And if it makes sense, I certainly would not have a problem people from Hong Kong start in China instead of Hong Kong, but always know that Hong Kong has something to offer. And if they need to go global, Hong Kong is still a much better springboard, for many startups.
Yeah, another question about like whether we should do it in Hong Kong or not. Like, as you know, develop an app from mainland China or India could be a lot cheaper than doing it from Hong Kong. Just wondering, how do you overcome that issue, or what is your consideration between that cost and do it in Hong Kong or not, etc.?
I think cost would be the last consideration, simply because obviously it depends on your case or the case of the individual or the startup. I think we should look at where the market is and what are the value that you're looking for in the talent team. If you're looking for a one-off development, then you look at cost. If you're looking at the talent that you want to create, sustain, develop, and grow over time, you might want to look at it differently. And maybe the answer lies in what we do. We have basically 2 or 3 development centers, one in Greater Bay Area, one in China, in Fuzhou, and one in Hong Kong. Hong Kong would do certain things which is much closer to the international standard in terms of design, for example. The design taste perhaps in China is more suited for China. And the back-end, front-end technology stack is also slightly different. And you will be using a different cloud back-end. So a lot of considerations like this, and you might find yourself, if you need to build a team that sustains and continues on, cost is not your first consideration.
I see. You also mentioned that like try not to be the best, but unique. Could you elaborate that part?
Sorry, can you come again?
You said
try
not to be the best, but unique. To be unique is more important than
I think the philosophy behind that is very simple. If you want to be number one, then you are in somebody else's race, right? Unless you're already number one and the race is created by you. And if you are in that situation, you are the unique one because you created that blue ocean yourself, right? So I want to encourage all my colleagues to think about, what we want to do is, obviously, if you're in somebody else's race, coming into the race and become number one, that's great. But even better is you create the new rules and the new race yourself because you are unique. So after 2017, Apple and Google releases AR Core and AR Kit, it's very difficult for a company like ours to create our own AR engine to compete effectively. So we would not choose that battle to go in and try to be number one there, because that's a race we cannot win. We will now do something else and try to be unique, right? So now we actually do a sensor-based or a smart city application with an AR experience on the web. So it's something which is more a red and blue ocean difference rather than trying to just be the best. And by the way, as you know, right, 冇最好，只有更好, right? So better is actually better than best.
It sounds like a little bit similar to the blue sea strategy when you are.
The red sea and the blue sea, right?
Yeah.
The red ocean and the blue ocean. Red ocean is, it's there and you want to, become number one there.
Yeah.
The blue ocean is something new.
New market, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This one is long, but I think it's pretty relevant because it's related to our staff and professor. If you want, you can open the Q&A box and go to the bottom. Like,
Okay.
as you mentioned, like the Waterloo University is fantastic in encouraging startups. However, Hong Kong doesn't have a great approach to encourage professors to do startups. As a chairman of the VersaTech and a council member, any suggestion to Hong Kong to encourage professors to develop their work into commercial products. I think we all want to do that and help our university to do more innovation and bring impact to society and the world.
Yeah, I think this question comes from either one of you or my friends in the council or in Versitech. No, just kidding.
I mean, some of the staff, they want to start their own business or started their own business.
This is a great question, and it is part of my mission to take up this challenge to serve as chairman and also work with Dr. He, President and Vice Chancellor Zhang, and also the university to make some changes. I cannot promise that we want to turn into someone else's model, Waterloo or someone else, because I think Hong Kong U is Hong Kong U. And some of these policies are not totally under Hong Kong U's sole discretion, because it is all the way from the UGC to the universities, okay? But I can promise you that I will not give up trying to align, inspire, and change some of these to make it a better environment for startups and for translational research to become impactful in the society. So I'm very much aware of that. I'm actually one of the advisors to the president of the Waterloo University for Asia. And I know coming off Waterloo, which actually doesn't own any IPs of any invention from students or professors in the university, can do a history of only 60 years, but they have donation from BlackBerry founder alone to perhaps top some of the universities that have hundreds of years of history. So it's quite powerful, but again, that's Waterloo. We are Hong Kong U.
Yes, we have our own constraint, the UGC, the publication index, all those we all have our own constraint and challenges, and I think we have our own way to deal with it. And we all know that the policy address today, a lot of the new policy are focusing on the innovation and also helping the university to do that. So we all hope and also have high hope on you to lead us to work on that part. And
yeah,
yes,
let's work on this together. It's the ecosystem, and the current administration is extremely supportive, and we are in a point of inflections with opportunities, both technology like 5G, IoT, smart city, and also the market, Greater Bay Area, Belt and Road, and the US-China conflict is actually an opportunity as well. Okay, so I think we are in very interesting time. Let's work together to make even more interesting things happen.
Yes, and another question is about entrepreneurs, mentors. I know you have been mentoring a lot of teams, and so how important are your mentors to you over the years? Do you have any stories or challenge or crisis you have faced before that because of the assistance by your mentor, so you manage or you successfully turn it around because of the help of your mentors?
Yeah, I have. I'm actually quite lucky to have a few mentors in different stages of the company. I have a mentor from Far East Tone Telecom from Taiwan. He's actually from AT&T. He was the CEO of Far East Tone Telecom. I served him from Deloitte Consulting days, so he knows. He knew me quite well. His name is Joe O'Connick. I was going to show a page of my mentors over time, but I didn't have time to get their permissions to show them. So Joe actually had a very short period, came to Hong Kong and became the CEO of CSL. But that was after his mentoring with me when we started Cherrypicks. So Joe actually saved my company, because when we had 2000 start of the journey, we actually raised about $5 million from a VC. I think I should not name the VC, but the VC basically went bankrupt the week after the internet bubble burst. And again, we had term sheet and shareholders agreement, everything signed, money not yet in the bank, and the whole thing collapsed. So you could imagine after 6 months of due diligence and runway burned and all that, and just to see a $5 million fundraising gone was devastating to a first startup, right? We're talking about failing fast. Nobody could be faster than that. So I reached out to Joe in Far Eastern Telecom, and he already placed an order to our product. Looking at the situation, he actually immediately called the family fund, and we actually had ended up having $1 million funding from Far Eastern, being our first Series A investor. So the coaching, the belief, the trust are all coming into place. I wouldn't think that he would do anything if he didn't know me before, nor didn't buy the product that we had, nor didn't understand the situation we were in. So mentors are lifesavers.
Yes, because he knows you well enough. He knows your product is good. So because when everyone does an referral, is also like putting his own reputation and name on it. So mentors is very important, and you should let them know you good enough so they can really help you when you are in need. And another question is pretty interesting. Like, do you still do the tech part of your company, or mainly manage or get the business or investment business, etc.? Do you miss being an engineer or developer?
Yeah, I would I would very much like to pretend that I still code, but I don't. I think, if I code, it will be on C++, and, people will be laughing at me. There would be a lot of interest. For me, I do code at the moment to coach my son, who is 13 years old and doing coding on Xcode and Python and so on. But at the company, no. I think on the tech side, we're very good tech people. It really helps with me having a previous technology training, but even I am not technical enough to engage in all the details of their conversation. So we're talking about finding and inspiring, leveling up good leaders so that they can build the business and they can lead. So I have a few very good tech guys. One senior tech guy who recently left actually now takes up a key role in Asia Pacific for a huge payment company. So we have good people.
Yes, that's why team building is very important when starting a startup. So, hi Jason, do you build any IPO plan when you first launched Cherrypicks from the first day? And in the market, you are the first to create the AR apps, iButterfly. How do you know the market is going to accept this new app before you launch it?
Okay, the first question, IPOs, that was the dream or part of the dream, because at some stage when you were young, you were having this fuzzy and dreamy concept of, IPO is the holy grail, and everybody want to go for IPO. And throughout the journey, there were a lot of opportunities when financial advisors, companies, and professional firms come to you and help you and pitch you to go after IPOs, Jamboard, Mainboard, NASDAQ, and so on. And in my Series A, B, and C round fundraising, in the shareholders agreement and share and purchase agreement, they were all in that agreement specifying the IPO conditions. So yes, I'm very, very familiar with what it takes and the aim and the objective to go for IPO. What the exit I experienced so far, 2 exits for myself and 2 exits in my staff portfolios, they were all M&As. So perhaps I can answer that question more appropriately after I experience an IPO myself.
Yeah, exactly.
The second part of the And I can tell you a lot of good things about M&A exit. Obviously, downside as well. But I want to answer your second part of the question. How do we know that iButterfly or AR would become trendy or would become the hot subject? I don't. And in fact, VR have had a false start for 4 times. And is it popular now? It's still questionable. But what I do know is AR offer good enough and different enough experience that I can actually make a user experience count. So it's not the technology, it's the user experience. And when you see and use iButterfly 10 years ago, that was wow. I haven't had someone who used iButterfly say that it's no good. They were just so impressed. And even after 7 years or 6 years later, Pokemon Go came out. A lot of people experienced this for the first time, like it so much. But for us, it's not. It wasn't new.
Yeah, I think another question is related to your previous about IPO one. Like as a founder, how do you trade off getting investment over giving up your equity or control? Any golden rules or principles on that part?
I think the golden rule for me, obviously Edith or somebody might be able to advise in the light of the entire investment approach. But for me as founder, as entrepreneur, I think always, if you don't need to go for fundraising, don't, right? Because if you can continue with your own funding, that's the best way. But if you need to scale, you must rely on funding from VC. Then you don't think about money. You don't think about money and dilution. You think about strategic value. You think about what I need this money for in terms of scaling growth, right? So think along those lines, those terms, that would take you to better places. Don't think about, dilution and, money. And when you do fundraising, it's game theory. So you need to have at least 2 investors line up, offering competing offers. That would be a better way to do it. And then you can compare their strategic value, not just on pure valuation or money terms.
And here comes to the last one. I think it's a perfect one to wrap up your presentation and today's session. Do you have few key principles for your company's success, or key principle to make your company stand out from the other companies?
Well, the values that we actually publish are the principles that we want to push. We just found out that it doesn't matter what you say and how, what you publish. It is, how people actually figure out and behave collectively. So those are the 5 things that we still value a lot, right? So you have to be curious and stay hungry, unsparing teamwork, and we have SEAL team now, and we want to empower them to work very well. Yeah, still remember the submarine analogy, and you want to be trustworthy, right? Because we're in a B2B SaaS enterprise business. We work with a lot of clients, sensitive and confidential and privacy-oriented deployment. And the last 2 would be, you need to be fast and you need to have fun. So these are the value that we think we could stand out from the pack if we follow through.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you very much for your sharing today. And we have a long session of Q&A. I think it's the most heated and popular session with more than 12 and 15 questions. And yes, thank you for your sharing. And we look forward to future collaborations and also your presence on campus about innovation entrepreneurship. Everyone want to talk with you in person and on campus, and I think we will have the chance and opportunity very soon. So Taurus, do you have some slides or events to do some promo, right?
I just have some few words. So this is the end of the final session of Entrepreneurship Academy this year. So as this semester is coming to an end, for all students, we wish you all the best with your examinations and papers. So carry on with your innovative ideas. Don't hesitate to talk to us. Go to our website, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube, and stay tuned. So goodbye, good health, and good luck.
One more line is that we will send out a survey on the Entrepreneurship Academy.
Yeah.
Please let us know your feedback so we can improve and do better. And also, we will also upload the replay of some of the session to our YouTube channel. So it will be included in the email. So check your email in the of the Hong Kong U email. Yeah. Thank you.
Stay tuned, everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
Stay healthy.
Thank
Stay
you.
safe.
Bye
Take
bye.
care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.